you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Can you tell us a little bit about 2020 in Iceland?
Oh, well, I don't think it's anybody's favorite year so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we think it's tough, but I think we still have it a lot easier than many other countries. And so for the virus, we got a quite good hold on it early in the spring. And I think people got a little careless.
Yeah.
So now we have like this third wave of it that is almost as bad as in the beginning. And so for us artists and performing arts, it's been terrible, you know.
Yeah. So are you heading into a third lockdown now?
Yeah, we are kind of not totally locked down. I still go teach
Yeah.
private students, but all group lessons are canceled. All sports are off, and we can't all the like the theaters and performing spaces are closed.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be in Poland today,
Hmm.
and we had some concerts booked for the trio, and we decided not to go.
Yeah.
We just decided a few days ago, like, well, this is not a good time to take such a chance, to travel.
Yeah. So has everything been cancelled this year in Iceland?
You mean all the concerts and
Mm.
stuff? Um, no, the theaters had just opened again, and we were doing concerts with I think a limit of 200 people
Oh, wow.
in larger venues.
Hmm.
Yeah, this outbreak happened, and it was spreading so quickly that authorities felt that they just needed to really deal with it immediately and close everything.
Yeah. Wow. And so were you able to do your festival this year?
There was an edition of the festival.
Oh,
It was right in this window where um, we could do something, for
yeah.
like I think the limit was 100 people maybe at that point. And so it changed a little bit. It was all moved into larger venues that had nothing else going on anyway, and
Hmm.
we're happy to have the festival there. And so yeah, it was different, of course, than usually, and with
Yeah, but
everybody spread out, the 2 meter distance between audience member and but at least there was some sort of festival.
yeah, I think this will be a little bit similar to our experience in November. So what I'm talking to you today about is the Sydney International Women's Jazz Festival and
Mm-hmm.
obviously the project Lilith Night, and we're playing your music as part of that project on November 7th, which we're excited about. But I think that will be the same experience. We have ticket limits of 45 at the moment. So very sort of intimate experiences compared to other years. At least
Yeah.
it's going ahead. I think people are happy that something is going ahead again. Um,
Yeah.
I think it gives a little bit of hope. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about the music that we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Unspoken is the piece that we've decided to play on the 7th of November. Can you tell us a little bit about where that piece came from, how it came about?
Okay. It's been several years actually since I wrote the piece, and if I remember correctly, it was inspired by poetry,
Hmm.
and I can't remember which poetry though anymore, which is unfortunate. Um, and I think I originally wrote it as a solo piano piece,
Mhm.
just kind of playing around with this bass figure or the figure in the left hand. But then when I started working with Martin Ornstein, his bass clarinetist in
Yeah.
Amsterdam, I thought that tune would be very nice
Mhm.
for the two of us. And so it became a regular part of our program when we
Yeah.
perform.
Great. And so, can you tell me a little bit about your regular lineups that you play with?
Yeah, I work with this guy Martin Ornstein whenever we have a chance. But of course, I'm in Iceland and he's in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And I've worked mostly with my trio in the past years.
Mhm.
with my husband, Skam Macklemore on drums, and Thorgrim Jonsson on bass. So the typical piano trio
Yeah.
setting. And we played all over the place and toured and done, I think, is it 4 albums together since 2011.
Mhm.
And so I would say that's really been my working group
Mm.
for the last decade.
Yeah.
I also do a duo with another pianist, Julia Hülsmann from Germany,
Yeah.
and um, that's a lot of fun. It's
Two
it's just
pianists in one room.
yes, it's just like ah.
And can you tell us a little bit about your approach to composition? So, do you have a different way of approaching pieces depending on what you're writing, or do you have sort of a similar way in when you're writing?
I think probably have a similar way in. I try to put myself into some sort of I don't know, a mental room or stage, where I'm just trying to feel the music or hear it. I'm not really thinking so much of the harmony in terms of like where should this chord go next
Mm.
because it is the dominant, or
Yeah.
I'm not thinking in those terms. I'm just rather going on an emotional instinct and trying to just hear it like somebody is giving it to me, like
Mhm.
it's just being handed from above or whatever.
Yeah.
It's tapping into the space of that there is something there, listening for it and trying to hear where it wants to go. But sometimes I also try to control it a little bit by thinking about what sort of piece I would like to write. Do
Mhm.
I want to, do I feel that my band at the moment needs a tune that is energetic or uplifting? Then I'll try to sort of set myself into that mood
Mhm.
to hear what could happen,
And do you start, you're a pianist, so you basically start at the piano mostly, or do you find you start writing in other ways?
Um, Sometimes at the piano, yeah, maybe lately more at the piano.
Mhm.
And before that, like when I lived in New York, I would actually just write a lot in my mind when I was sitting on the train,
Yeah.
and I would just start singing a melody. I would hear the melody, and then I would come home and kind of have to transcribe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And so your music has been described sometimes as sort of bridging the gap between Brooklyn and Iceland. So,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about jazz in Iceland today? So, it's obviously quite different to when you were growing up, I assume, in Iceland. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that?
The scene today, there's a lot of different things going on. It's not a very large scene, but I think for Iceland, it's considerably large.
Mhm.
Considering how many people or how few people live here, and people are very much, I think, into doing their own thing.
Mhm.
And blending styles together. Electronic music or with jazz and with whatever. But probably, when you talk about Nordic music, there's some sort of underlying melody,
Mhm.
like a strong sense of melody,
Yeah.
and I think that's here also in Icelandic jazz.
Mhm.
And, but yeah, we have a lot of nice players and a nice wide variety.
Yeah, I always find it so interesting about Iceland because it's a very small population, but it's been very rich in music and its history across all genres.
Yeah, even now some classical players and yeah, a lot of music.
Yeah, and why do you think that is? Is it
Uh,
the dark days or
yeah, I think it's the water. Nah.
the what? Yeah.
um, I don't know. I think yeah, you can make all kinds of guesses why that is, but a lot of people here go to music school,
Okay.
and when you're a kid, it's kind of it's very common that children will play some sort of sport and go to the music school, or play in the school band, like there's a school orchestra, or so it's not so unusual to have gone to music school, and then maybe that has something to do with it. The people when they then get a little bit older and they start to make their own music
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the dark days or the long days in the summer where you have
Yeah.
endless energy and creativity and you just want to make stuff and but we also have a tradition of singing a lot. There's a lot of choirs here. When we go camping, somebody brings a guitar
Mm,
and people sing. There's a lot of singing in kindergarten, and
mm.
that's probably where we get this melodic, Nordic melodic sense so ingrained in us.
And do you think it's a lot of music is inspired by nature in Iceland?
Oh, probably. I don't think people are really aware of it.
Hmm.
Like in my case, I didn't think much about my surroundings here until I moved to New York,
Yeah.
and suddenly I like realized, oh, I really miss not seeing the mountains and the ocean and all that. But when you just live here and it's your normal life, you don't really pay attention to it. And then whenever I would come back, I would just be like, ah, yeah, so good to see the mountains, and I like going out in nature and taking walks, and I feel like I get this just energy from the view, because you can really see far here.
I think that there's a similarity in Australia. It's not sort of like you set out with this intention of putting nature in music, but I think it somehow seeps in somehow, and I think that's because people here just spend a lot more time outdoors.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I
yeah,
think you're always going to be um, affected by your surroundings,
yeah,
So, like when I was living in New York, where there's a lot of intensity and energy, that affected how I wrote music. I wrote music that had that intensity in it. And then when I moved back to Iceland, it just became a lot more calm.
mm, yeah. And so, how long were you in New York for? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in New York?
Yeah, well, I was in the US for a total of 12 years. And I went there first to go to school in New Jersey, just outside of New York. And then I moved to Brooklyn
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I finished school. I lived there with my husband, Scott. And it was great being in Brooklyn. We were in Park Slope with a lot of musicians around us, just, even on our street. You would always run into somebody and even see somebody famous, and there's like sessions every day. And music was just like number one, two, and three. There really wasn't anything else that sort of
Mm.
took up any space in your life.
Yeah.
So it's a very great environment for a growing musician,
Mm.
to be inspired and to learn from other people. And I really liked it. But also at a certain point, I got really tired of sort of the low standard of living.
Yeah.
And we decided to move out, and move back to Iceland because we wanted to start a family. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So that brings us to our next question. So a lot of the women composers that we're featuring this time in the program actually have children, which I think is a good thing. The last program we did last year was a very low percentage of women who actually had children.
Hmm.
So how do you think that is sort of incorporating both in the jazz world or in the freelance music world as a woman in jazz?
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, I never thought about it really. I mean, I was really aware of it when I was in New York that people around us, musicians, didn't have children. It was really rare. And I realized that it was very tough there to be a musician and also have children. But in Iceland, it's easy because of just the society how it is. And then a couple of years ago, somebody said to me like, "How do you do it all? How do you? I mean, how can you be a pianist and a mother and direct a festival?" And I was just like, um, "Is that something unusual?" It didn't really face me. It's just who I am. This is what I do. But of course, it is difficult sometimes to go away. and also to find the time, when you have a deadline, and you need to do something, and then your child is sick and you need to attend to the
Mm.
child, and it's yeah, it can be challenging, but I think it must have its benefits too, like you grow to become a larger person, maybe a better artist, because you have a greater experience, as being a parent. And there was this great picture of Jerry Allen that
Mm.
somebody posted
Posted,
recently.
yeah, with the
Yeah,
child on the back. Mm.
yeah, she has her child on her back, and she's doing a sound check. And the guy that posted is just like voicing these questions, like, you know, do we ever stop to ask, is this just normal, that a woman always carries her baby on the back when she's trying to do her work? Would a man ever be expected to do that? And so I appreciated that he, brought this into light,
Mm.
because I think it has probably made it more difficult for a lot of women to stay in this scene,
Yeah.
stay on the scene, on the jazz scene.
After birth, do you think that affected sort of the way you wrote it all when you first had children?
Yeah, I think so. When I think back, I was very tired, and the music that I listened to at the time was very just calming. Like I needed music just to sort of balance me out. So I would listen to Bill Evans and Boba Stenson, and but not anything very aggressive at the time. It was just too much, And so I think I also wrote music that was very spacious and calming
Mm.
at that time.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? This whole issue of women in music and women in jazz has sort of progressed over the last 5 years. And can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about your perspective in your career and experiences in terms of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when growing up here in Iceland, I was the only instrumentalist in jazz, and I thought it was kind of a lonely place, and I still think it is a little bit of a lonely place, because I find myself, working with men all the time,
Yeah.
and they're great. But when I do have the opportunity to work with women, it's a completely different atmosphere.
Mm.
And I had a project. I think it was last year, where we had these women come from Germany,
Mhm.
uh, four great players, and we did a project here together, and it was so much fun because we were just laughing all the time, and just thinking about what is best for the music and for this performance, and it was just so rewarding. And so I really appreciate having that experience also. And I think I think for guys, it must be a little bit different when you're playing in an all male band, or you're playing in a band that has mixed genders. There's got to be a little bit different atmosphere around it. And when I was in New York, I noticed that the women on the scene were all band leaders.
Yeah.
There were hardly any women. There were sidemen.
Yeah.
And why is that? Maybe because we tend to, when we get a gig, we tend to call the people that we socialize the most with.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy, you're most likely to socialize with other guys, and you call your guy friends. So I think basically that's really the reason. It's sort of end up being kind of on the edges a little bit. And if you want to take part, you have to create it yourself as a woman. You have to create the band, create the project,
Yeah.
and just dive in and do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a little bit changing now, because we've been talking about this for so long, and now people are becoming more aware that it shouldn't be like that. Women should just be um, a normal part of the scene. And so some men are realizing that they also play a role, and they need to do their part to change it.
Does Iceland have any programs dealing with this?
Not really, but if you're gonna ask for public money, You know, if you're going to apply for a grant from the city or the state, then there's always this checkbox, you know, who benefits from the project? Is it men, women, or both men and women? And also which age groups, you know, benefits from the project? So that kind of almost forces you to at least keep that in mind, that you should try to strive for some sort of gender balance and equal opportunities. And but there's no quota like you have to have, you know, a certain number of women or, you know.
And so can you tell us now sort of what direction are you going into now that you've left the position as artistic director of Reykjavik Jazz Festival?
Yeah, I wanted to focus a little more on my trio
Mm-hmm.
and just performing and writing music, because while I was directing the festival, it really took up a lot of my time, and I kind of had to put my other activities a little bit to the side. So I'd like to do more of that. And of course, this year there's no traveling, so I didn't exactly pick the best year to do that. But I also have, well, two concert series that I still book here in Iceland, and one is for to create opportunities for women in jazz. And there I have this rule that for each act on my concert series, there has to be at least one woman in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that when I started this concert series, that it would encourage people to form new projects with, you know, both men and women, and that it would, yeah, that the guys would start looking around to see like, well, what women on the scene could I work with and to be a part of this concert series. But it didn't happen like that. It's mostly women that get together and form new projects, and they come. So I have these all female groups playing on the concert series, or projects that have a woman leading the band, and she has hired some men to play with her.
Yeah.
So interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to us, Sunna. It was really nice to talk to you
Yeah.
very briefly. So in the description box below, people can click on the link to Sydney International Women's Jazz Festival and to Lilith Night playing Sunna's music on the 7th of November. And that's at Foundry 616. As we said before, restricted tickets. So we've only got 45 places. I think we've sold quite a few tickets, but there are still a few left. And of course, links to Sunna's music will be below in the description box as well. So please check out some Icelandic jazz while you're at it. I think I'm a Nordic at heart, so I always really like visiting Nordic countries and listening to music from up there.
Great.
Yeah.
All these beautifully handmade cups. They're made in Iceland.
Wonderful.
Yes, and they're great for cappuccinos.
Very good. This is a promo at the end. Do you have it? Is there an artist that makes it? Is that somebody in particular?
Yeah. Yes, she also makes the award or the prizes for the music awards in Iceland.
Oh.
And so she makes these cups, and they're very popular. And
thanks very much for your time, Sunna. It's much appreciated. And we look forward to playing your music. And oh, I forgot to ask you, do you have any sort of ideas about that piece in our lineup? We've got clarinet, trumpet, piano, and drums.
I think you should just use it as a vehicle to take it wherever you want to take it.
Okay, cool.
I'd love to hear that if you record it. You know, it'd be great to hear it. I always love hearing what other people do with the music I write.
Great.
You know, thank you for inviting me. You know,
no, I have to have Iceland on the list. So, great. Thanks so much, Sunna, and take care. And hopefully, see you sometime on the planet.
So,
all
right.